Wow, must be Wednesday. That's the one and
Oh.
only Kevin Petersen, ladies and gentlemen.
And Jay Staples.
Is this your office in your new house? I mean,
it's the same house, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
just the office. Yeah,
looks
that's me,
different.
baby.
It looks different. Did you change anything?
A little bit. I mean, I rearranged everything for you, Jay. Just for you, baby. Just for you. You know what I'm saying?
If you got any questions like me about his office attire or what office wall hangings, go on to chronicope.us. He's got all kinds of free resources, and you can reach him directly. He's got like a private Facebook page, Chronicope. Just reach out to him. You can do what I always do. It's my new greatest hobby. Go stalk him over on Instagram, Kevin W.
Yeah.
Petersen. I mean, it's just a lot of fun. But we do Family Matters with that guy. It's an insight into asking questions and just kind of what we do, how we do it, and ask any questions. There's no bad questions. So we do this every Wednesday. I think we took Thanksgiving, or I probably took it off. Kevin was probably sitting in front of his computer, probably just talking to a blank screen, but I was off. But we're back.
All by myself.
And
all by myself, wondering where you're
how
at.
was your Thanksgiving?
It was wonderful. It was super quiet. We did remodel the house in April, and we put a new kitchen in, so we got to use the kitchen. And we have a new convection oven. It took 2 hours to cook the thing. That was great. It was amazing.
Well, good.
So,
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
My heart, soul, and stomach are filled up. So we'll get right into it.
What do we got?
We get the questions up. I don't know what's harder, Kevin, asking my son to leave our house or wondering if he is safe not hearing his voice. So this was a long one, so we're trying to collapse. But you got parents out there, just in general, we got a couple of questions this week because, the drug addiction, whatever, substance misuse, they're asking their son, daughter, loved one to kind of leave house, and then kind of the lack of contact. So just overall kind of tidbits about someone that's set a boundary, they left the house, and lack of communication, just kind of guidelines. Would you take them through it?
So here's the thing about the situation, and I get this. I totally understand this. I get this from all the families I work with. They get very, like, if I set the boundaries you're telling me to set, I won't know what's going on, and something bad might happen. And then I won't be able to fix it and rescue them and take care of them. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. And the first thing I always tell them is, how about we automatically agree right now that bad things are happening anyway? Whether they're in your house, out of your house, they're killing themselves. So we have to agree that we're at a place where we need to set that boundary so that they don't die, because they're already on that path. That's why we would tell someone that, hey, we love you, but if you're going to continue to use drugs and drink or lie to us or steal from us, you can't live here, because it's already gotten that bad where they're taking the family down with you. That's what you have to look at this is like, are we at the point where they're taking the family down with them, and we have to save the family, and we do, but here's the other thing to remember is, we're always telling them, if you're ready to get help, we will take you to get help. We will move heaven and earth to get you help. That's not an issue. But you cannot stay. I mean, the thing I get is, I'd rather they were living in my basement getting high. And I'm like, okay, but I want you to understand, they're killing themselves in your basement. Why not set the boundary and give them an opportunity to get help elsewhere? And I know it's a tough pill to swallow, but you've got to remember, when you and I got sober, it was like, my life is so bad that I'm going to go hang out in a church basement on folding chairs and drink shitty coffee. That's how lousy my life is. The family has to get to that point too, where they're like, things are shitty anyway. We might as well salvage the family, So that's the reality of it,
Well, I came in on a winning streak. I'll just say that. Like, my life was amazing. I just needed more friends because, I mean, not that I had no friends. I just needed more friends. That's why I really decided to join AA. But I think I think what you touched on is bringing the family down, and but I think the interesting thing and maybe the toughest is actually in the midst of it, having family members see that the family is being brought down. And I'm always fascinated with the other siblings, the time and attention it goes to Jay, because I've been acting out in addiction, and my two older brothers were kind of like, you know what? We knew mom and dad were basically MIA because they're worrying about Jay. So I think in the midst, it's really tough for families to see that they're going down. So, but I think they need to.
And that's where a good family therapist or a good family coach can sit them down and say, hey, let's take a look at this big picture. Yes, Kevin and Jay are over here getting high, doing stupid stuff. No questions asked. Let's take a look at the impact that has on your family. Your other children are feeling completely neglected. Your marriage is suffering. You're not going to, I mean, work isn't going well. And you have to start seeing this in the big picture and in the family systemic picture, and understand that this is costing you so much more than just the individuals. Here's the interesting thing. This was one of my classes. One of my professors taught me this, is that for an addict or an alcoholic, for every family system, let's say there's 5 people and you put them in a circle, everybody takes a turn going into the middle of the circle. Mom has surgery, dad gets a new job, your brother goes to college, somebody has a lot of success in something, or somebody gets sick and everyone's got to rally around them and take care of them. The alcoholic or the addict goes in the middle of the circle and everybody circles around them and they never come out. Because even when they get sober, because they like it there, because they get all the attention and everything's taken care of. It's my job to teach the family to pull that person back out of the circle and make them a member of the circle, not the center of the circle. Does that make sense?
Well, you just called me out there. I don't like that one bit. You know what?
I may have been talking about myself.
Whatever. That doesn't apply to me one bit. Like, oh, I'm over here taking notes. Like, I enjoy the center. It's very comfortable, but that does not. I cannot relate. I don't relate to that one bit. So let's just move on because I don't want to talk about it.
Right. New question.
That was good, Kevin. I will give you that because that is so true. I've seen it play out in my life. But shielding our son from consequences of our son's addiction has led to several arrests. Do you suggest not paying for legal fees? Allowing lease car payments go unpaid, like bad credit, record. Another one that we get a lot that's several questions more about what do you do about lease, car payments, arrests, and so forth. What's your suggestions around? Because they're always like, I don't want them to have bad credit. I don't want them to have a record, but, they're continually doing it.
I would tell you that I would give them one pass. I would give them one, oh, you got a DUI? We'll help you. One time. Oh, you fell behind on your bills. If you can afford it, as long as you're paying your bills, okay? I would give them, I wouldn't say you're going to clean out their issues. I would be like, oh, you need to borrow rent money one time or you need to borrow car money. Everybody does that. I mean, when you're new, and I get that. One time, one pass, that's it. After that, sorry, bro, it's on you. And don't pay their legal fees. After the one time, it sounds like it's a repetitious cycle. And so, because here's the thing, because the next thing you're going to tell me is, God damn, this kid, he doesn't take responsibility for his actions and he never solves his own problems. I'm like, why should he? He knows you will step in and pay the bill and take care of him. What's his incentive? He knows you're going to solve the problem, so he doesn't have to worry about it. He knows mom and dad are going to come clean up the mess and take care of everything. So my answer is everybody gets a one-time pass. Everybody gets a oops. Everybody gets a, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. That's it. And by the way, if he gets a DUI and that's his one-time pass, that's a loan. That's not a gimme. That's a loan. I mean, we all know you're never going to get it back, but just make it clear. So, because in order for him to change his behavior, he has to feel the consequences. He has to feel the consequences, and that's all there is to it. And the number one thing I get from families is that they're like, "Oh yeah, like, I don't understand why he won't change." I'm like, "Why should he?
Yeah.
Why should he? He has no incentive to change. You are because he knows you will come in and solve the problem. Stop solving his problems. He might go to jail. Hey, everybody in this podcast that had to go bankrupt and had struggled financially, raise your hand. Let me tell you something. I had crappy credit and I got my shit together and I got it. I mean, I got sober, I got my act together, paid my bill, blah, 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 and then I got divorced and my credit went to hell again, and now it's all better. It can be done. You just got to do it. And my parents are pretty well off. They stood by and watched. They're like, ooh, that sucks. Good luck with that.
Man, you've been attacking me all day. Like, you've been attacking me all day. Yes, I did all that. I mean, it's, I think I'm grateful now on the other side. My parents gave me more than one kind of free ride, but I got arrested a lot. So, but I think you nailed it. Like, if there's an overriding theme when talking with anyone dealing with substance abuse, it's the shielding of consequences and then complaining. Like, Jay, why doesn't he take, like, why would he? He is so comfortable. Like, he doesn't need to change because everything comes to him. So
yeah,
it is. And I'm not a parent. This is just, it's the same thing that I've had long conversations with my mom and dad about. Did you guys ever consider just leaving me in jail? And my mom and dad all said, like, oh God, yeah. Like, we went back and forth. And you know what? It ended up being the right thing. But daughter's in a long-term program now for the last 7 months. She looks and sounds great, but we've been down this road before. My husband and I struggle with trusting our daughter, the lies, the deceit, the game playing. I mean, here's the mom and dad, kind of mainly the mom, kind of like early recovery. Like, what's the basis for like the trust, the faith? Do we just don't believe her when her lips move?
Jay, I wrote a book. You know what? I wrote 2 books.
You need a third one on the way.
Probably. Get this book, Mom and Dad, Chronic Hope, on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. By the way, I had a guy tell me, I looked it up on Kindle, and for Black Friday, it was half off, or Audible. I was like, Audible. I'm like, oh, great. Half of the little amount of money I get to begin with. So Jeff Bezos is going to the moon, and I'm getting, $2 for writing a book on saving someone's life. It's fucking ridiculous. What was the question? No, I'm kidding. All right. Just had this conversation yesterday with a family. How long do we do this? As long as they're on your dime. Once she gets out of the long-term program, by the way, thank God she's in a long-term program where she's being taught accountability and consistency and transparency. When she gets out and she does her year, and so here's the thing, the drug testing doesn't stop. So remember the 3 categories: drugs and alcohol, school or work, family behavior. Those 3 levels of accountability and boundaries never go away. If you want to be part of our family, these things have to be done because you've shown a propensity for struggling with this, and this is our way of supporting you. There's lots of different ways to do drug testing and monitoring. Same thing with work and school. If she's getting a job and getting up on her own feet, great, fantastic. Get up on her own feet. Let's make it happen. And then family behavior. It's like, these are our expectations. This is how we treat each other. And if she's not abiding by them, you have to hold her accountable. It's right back to what you just talked about. You have to continue to hold them accountable. Just because I got sober, just because I had a year, just because I graduated from college, just because fill in the blank, my parents were like, oh, great, everything's all better. And I want to tell you another thing too, because this comes up a lot with these situations. Mom and dad are like, oh, well, she's been sober for a year, and she said it was okay if she started drinking again because her drinking really wasn't her problem. She was a heroin addict. Okay. No. No, no, no. Abstinence means abstinence. I was an alcoholic and I smoked a ton of weed. That doesn't mean it's okay for me to snort coke, smoke meth, or shoot heroin, because those weren't my problem. That's not how it works. You have to stay consistent. And this is a lifetime commitment to living a different way of life. The best thing you can do as a family member is hold her accountable. And I get that you've been down this road before. I get that you've been burned before. That's why you're never going to let your guard down. And you can still love her, but you're going to love her with boundaries. Simple as that. You know, simple as
Good.
that.
Good.
I'm sure none of that applies to you.
More personal question, like the difference between coaching a parent and a spouse. This one, there's one in particular question that came in that her son is showing signs, and also her husband, and so just she wants to, like how you deal with a young adult going through some substance misuse and an older. And if there's any difference between coaching a spouse or coming to his parent.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would say, there's definitely I wrote 2 books. Did I tell you that? The first one's called Parenting the Addicted Child, which is really about how to deal with someone who's under 18 or under 21, who's basically under your roof and under your financial discretion. You have a lot more leverage with them. It's a lot easier. I mean, when they're under 18, you can hire someone that shows up and says, "Hi, we're going to treatment," and you can sign over, and there's no arguing. If they're older than that, I wrote another book called Chronic Hope, Families and Addiction, all available on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. That's more of a situation, and I think you and I can testify to this, is that, I was 27 when I got sober because my family said, "We love you, but we're done." And they held their ground and they stayed consistent. So I wasn't under their roof. I wasn't under their financial engagement. I was completely on my own, rocking my own thing. And they just said no. And I've certainly worked with plenty of husbands and wives that have turned around and looked at their spouse and said, "I love you. I'm not doing this anymore. And I want to help you. But if these 3 things, if there's drugs and alcohol, the school or work, financial stability, and the behavior within the structure of the family don't change, I'm changing. And I'm happy to help. And I know some people that can help us. Let's give it a whirl." And generally you get one of 3 responses. F you, I'm not doing this. There's your answer. Okay, I'll try. And they can't. So then you got to get to the next level. And okay, I'll try. And they actually succeed. And you kind of move on from there. So it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty categorical. But yeah, is there a difference between coaching someone who's a parent or someone who's a spouse? It's a slight difference. It's not a massive difference, but it's really the same thing. The person's struggling with drugs and alcohol, and you got to be able to look at them and say, "I love you, but we're not doing this anymore." That's the enchilada right there.
Wow. Another week with Kevin Petersen. So it's I didn't know you wrote some books, but I'm glad. You got to be working on your 3rd book here very soon. I mean,
yeah.
But anyway, there seems it's every week we do the same thing. Keep the questions coming in, but I think Kevin, what I like about Kevin is he stays consistent. I mean, the messaging is like he was saying, kind of that last question, like a parent or a spouse. Slight changes in how you maybe the verbiage around it or something like that, but it's pretty much all the same. And so I like how the messaging it's a consistent message, and families continually need kind of backup sometimes. So I think this is what we're doing, and we're offering the backup and keep the questions coming. But you got a consistent message, which I love.
Well, Jay, I appreciate that. And that's why you and I get along, because you have a consistent message and you're very straightforward. I mean, you and I both know that we both go to the same home group AA meetings regularly. And, we have accountability in our lives and we have transparency in our lives. So that's what makes the difference,
Well, and we were both at the opposite with our family creating that messaging that created the change. So I think maybe that's just kind of in the holidays always kind of is the is just the cherry. Like when I make sure to take a moment just to kind of soak it all in with my eyes. Like I could have thrown all this away. Like, you know, I could have, when the nephew's saying, "What are you thankful for, Uncle Jay, Uncle Jay?" You know, like, you know, I missed a big portion of that. Thankfully, they've never seen me drunk or high, but I was cashing out, you know, being a member of the family for far too long. And this way of life, if there's someone watching this, I mean, this way of life to make small changes, it's well worth it. That's all I'll say.
No, I agree with you, man. I talked to my sister and her husband and my nieces on Thanksgiving. My mom died 9 years ago on the 24th of November. So Thanksgiving is a little hard, and not a little hard, it's a lot hard. And my dad passed away 2 years ago, and so it's definitely a tough time. But you know, like you just said, you know, one of my nieces has a birthday this week, and so I got on, texted her, said, "What do you want?" I'm that uncle. I'm like, "What do you want?" I want this. Okay, you get it. Don't tell your mother.
Well, Thanksgiving is like I've got 4 nephews and a niece, and we all go to the mall. I mean, thankfully they're old enough that's like, hey, text me when you find something. So they just all dispersed. We met at the food, you know, but they also know, like, I say a number and they're like, "Oh, Uncle Jay," like, "Don't worry about it. Uncle Jay just never, you know." So it's one of these years I'm going to stick to a budget. I'm that dad, mom, whatever, but you know, it makes my heart smile when I do it every year. So I mean, this is how I justify it. I don't know why I'm telling this, but I don't really give them, you know, like birthdays, you know, presents or anything. I just want to go all in. Like I say, like Christmas is kind of like your yearly present. So let's go big. And I think they like it, you know, and so I like to spoil.
Yeah.
So
yeah, me too. That's what I told my niece. I'm like, "How about a combo Christmas birthday present?" And she was like, "Yeah." I said, "What do you want?" She's like, "I want this Dyson hair thing." I'm like, "Done."
you know, the nephews are all these shoes, and what we're paying for shoes nowadays is like, and then the niece who's like 12 is all like sprays and makeup. So but we'll do this every week. Family Matters with Kevin. Keep your questions coming. We're going to do this till when the questions stop, we'll think about stopping, but keep the questions coming, and we love doing it.
Yeah, we do.
See you, Kevin, next week.